Welcome back to the Data Protection Diaries, welcome back to the vlog. My apologies, it has been quite some time since we last posted a video. Things have been pretty busy here at iStorm. I just haven't had the time to put together any content, put together any videos, and there hasn't really been a topic of conversation that I felt warranted trying to find the time, trying to put that effort in to give you guys something valuable. Finally, we have had some news other than, of course, news about the Data Protection Reform Bill, which we have touched on in a previous video, and nothing has really changed there. News has come out this week though that the ICO is changing its approach and is trialling a new approach on how they deal with public sector bodies and public authorities when things go wrong and when data breaches occur. That for me is something worth talking about, and that is what we're going to cover in today's video. As always, if you are new to the channel, then welcome. Thank you very much for joining us. If you're not new, make sure that you hit that subscribe button down in the right hand corner of the screen. Please do like this video as well. Comment down below. Let me know what your thoughts are. Do you think the ICO's change in approach is a good thing? What do you think the impact is going to be? The more people that we can get talking, the more people we can get engaging on this topic, and it's just good for everyone involved. But anyway, enough of the intros. Let's get on with what we want to talk about today. So at the end of June, the Information Commissioner's Office released a press notification, or released a press release, funny enough, saying that they are going to trial a different way of working with public sector bodies and public authorities here in the UK. Now, this for me is a really, really important piece of news, and it's potentially going to have a great impact on the way that the regulator works and how they go about delivering enforcement for a range of activities, but particularly those things related to breaches of data protection law. As many of you will know, the regulator has a number of powers, anything from being able to issue enforcement notices, warnings, requesting changes to processing, but of course they are also able to issue fines. Now, fines are very often issued to organisations for a number of reasons. Obviously, because an incident was serious enough to warrant it, there was sufficient harm to the individuals. But in my view, fines are also issued because, in all honesty, they're just good press. People seem to want to be able to see enforcement action, and enforcement action tends to come with this kind of monetary value attached to it. You're not doing your job properly if you're not fining people enough money. Like, where's the cash? Where's the harm to the organisation? Now, that works perfectly fine in the private sector, or in a sector where profit making is obviously the name of the game. But what we're talking about here is the public sector. So we are talking about organisations that are funded by public money, so by my taxes, by your taxes, by taxes of everybody that lives and works in this country, and they're now being fined by another public authority for a breach or for an incident. So essentially what's really happening is you're robbing Peter to pay Paul. These organisations, these public authorities, we're talking about the NHS, we're talking about public sector services, we're talking about councils. They get their budgets from the government, so they get their budgets from another public sector organisation. Essentially, they get money from me and you, from our taxes, from the council tax that we pay, and now currently they're being fined that money, and that money then goes back into the public purse. So they have less money to spend on the services that we think they should be spending money on, and the services that we think they should be delivering. Case in point, there have been 2 recent fines issued, one of which went to an NHS organisation, was somewhere in the region of a few £100,000. That fine has now recently been reduced to around £74,000, but it did relate to the release of information about a number of individuals who are going through a gender reassignment clinic, and their email addresses were added in essentially into the CC rather than the BCC, so that information was shared with a much broader group of people than it should have been. Now, the impact of that could obviously be very great. These individuals can suffer significant harm and distress, especially if that information is used in a particular fashion or is given to people that these people aren't comfortable with. But does fining the organisation fix the problem? Not really. It demonstrates a deterrent in some instances, but you can't fix human error, you can't fix process issues by charging people, by fining people. How are they going to make things better if they haven't got the money to make improvements? John Edwards has said in a statement that the reason that they want to remove or move away from fines is that fines are not a deterrent. I mean, they are for some organisations. It's a stick to poke people with, I guess. But enforcement action, enforcing non-compliance, using enforcement notices, warnings, working with organisations to improve their practices and to improve their processing activities and how they collect information has to be a far, far better use of resources and time and money than just issuing an organisation with a fine. For me, it's especially important that this is being rolled out in the public sector because, as we've already said, you are basically robbing Peter to pay Paul. You're taking money from a public funded body to give it to another public funded body. You're essentially victimising the victims. If you are a patient within an NHS trust or an NHS clinic and your information is breached, and then the result of that is that that trust is then fined for that breach, you're potentially having less access to services because that money that could have been used for those services is now being used to essentially punish the organisation. Whereas a better use of that money would be better training, better awareness, more education, better understanding of how that incident occurred, spending that money on bringing the level of compliance within that organisation up to a suitable level rather than spending it on punishing them is a much, much better use of resources, time and money, in my opinion. I have to say, I do think there is legs in this in the private sector as well. Again, when you're looking at some organisations that could potentially be issued with a fine, does the fine act as a deterrent? In most cases, in my view, probably not, because there is so much money for people to be made while they're being non-compliant, especially when you look at fines for PECA, for instance, that it doesn't really matter. The fine is never going to outweigh the amount of profit that gets made before somebody gets caught. But a regulator that focuses on improvement, a regulator that focuses on improving compliance, helping organisations upskill, helping organisations do better, for me, is a much better regulator than somebody that just issues fine and focuses on monetary penalties as a deterrent or even as a solution. That's not, of course, to say that I don't think fines have any place and don't have a use in the world. I think they do, but I think they can be used better. I think there are better ways for a regulator to work. And I'm hoping that this trial in the public sector may see some positive outcomes that we can then start to see over in the private sector as well. As always, this is a fairly succinct view on the world. Again, my apologies for not uploading for a while. I will try and get back to some more regular content. Do let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Do you think this is a good thing? Is it a good trial? Do you think this could work in the public sector? Is there any benefit in fining people from a monetary perspective, or is enforcement action better? Do let me know your thoughts. Of course, make sure you hit that subscribe button, like, comment, all those wonderful things, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Thanks very much.